Right now, as you watch this video, Africa stands at the threshold of what may be the most profound political transformation in modern history. For over 150 years, the continent has been dissected and governed by borders drawn not by its people, but by European powers seeking control, extraction, and division. These artificial lines, established during the Berlin Conference of 1885, have dictated the political, economic, and social realities of millions of Africans, often pitting communities against one another and leaving the continent fragmented. But today, a seismic shift is underway, one that promises to rewrite the story of Africa in ways few could have imagined just a generation ago. The African Union, the body tasked with promoting peace, stability, and cooperation among African nations, has officially endorsed a revolutionary initiative spearheaded by Ibrahim Traoré, the Continental Border Elimination Program. This is not merely a reform or an adjustment of policy. It is a deliberate dismantling of the colonial architecture that has long confined Africa's potential. It is a movement designed to reunite ethnic groups separated for over a century, to forge political entities based on shared culture, language, and geography, rather than the arbitrary convenience of foreign powers. And it is unfolding quietly, yet with consequences that could reverberate across the globe. Consider the gravity of this moment. On December 8, 2024, at exactly 11:23 p.m. East Africa time, the African Union's Peace and Security Council convened an emergency session that lasted over 7 hours. In a historic, unanimous decision, the Council voted to endorse the elimination of colonial borders across the continent. 49 nations voted in favor, none opposed, and only 5 abstained, countries whose governments remain under significant Western influence. Even these abstaining nations, however, have privately indicated they will join once they see the tangible benefits realized by early adopters. For context, the African Union has never before passed a resolution of such scope. This is a radical departure from decades of cautious diplomacy and incremental cooperation. Ibrahim Traoré's role in this achievement cannot be overstated. Over the past 14 months, he has orchestrated an unparalleled campaign of diplomacy and grassroots mobilization. Unlike previous leaders who sought to convince governments first, Traoré started with the people. By engaging ethnic communities divided by colonial lines, he demonstrated the tangible benefits of reunification, cultural restoration, economic opportunity, and social cohesion. Trade barriers removed between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso resulted in a 340% increase in commerce, a 60% drop in unemployment, and the revival of traditional festivals that had been impossible for over a century. Young people could finally reconnect with grandparents and relatives previously separated by arbitrary national borders. Students could attend universities in their ancestral regions. Traditional leaders regained influence over their historic territories. But the genius of Traoré's strategy lies not only in demonstrating the immediate benefits, but also in addressing the practical concerns that have long prevented African leaders from pursuing such radical reform. Detailed plans for political transition, minority protection, infrastructure coordination, and governance integration were meticulously crafted. Traoré understood that any attempt to eliminate borders without a comprehensive framework would risk chaos. Instead, he proposed a methodical approach, integrating economic, cultural, and social systems to ensure that reunification strengthens, rather than destabilizes, the continent. The implications of this initiative are monumental. We are talking about redrawing the boundaries of 54 countries, reconnecting over 100 million people who have been artificially separated, and creating governance structures that reflect Africa's unique linguistic, cultural, and environmental realities. This is not a theoretical exercise. It is a practical roadmap for continental transformation. The plan includes 15 key components, from unifying ethnic groups and establishing natural geographic boundaries to coordinated infrastructure development, shared environmental management, integrated health and education systems, and democratic governance blending traditional consensus with modern institutions. Every element is designed to rebuild Africa from the ground up, creating a unified and self-sustaining continent capable of negotiating on equal footing with global powers. Even more remarkable is the secrecy and speed with which this resolution was passed. While Western media focused on conventional headlines, economic reports, elections, regional conflicts, an unprecedented political movement quietly gained momentum in the halls of the African Union. For 96 hours, international media had no access to the deliberations. Only now, through careful reporting and insider accounts, are we beginning to understand the scale of what has been set in motion. Western intelligence agencies are scrambling to comprehend the potential consequences. This is, in real terms, one of the most classified and consequential political developments in modern African history. The social and cultural dimensions of this movement are equally striking. Communities across the continent have already begun to celebrate reunification. In Lagos, Nigeria, millions rejoiced at the prospect of reconnection with Yoruba communities in neighboring Benin. In Nairobi, Kenya, the Maasai are hosting ceremonies to welcome relatives from Tanzania. Across Senegal, Gambia, and Mauritania, Wolof communities are planning reunification festivals, reconnecting families, and revitalizing cultural traditions. Young Africans in particular have embraced this initiative with enthusiasm. University exchange programs, professional networks, and social media campaigns have surged, spreading awareness and mobilizing grassroots support faster than any centralized government initiative could. At its core, this movement challenges decades of external manipulation. Colonial borders were never intended to serve African interests. They were designed to extract resources, fragment communities, and maintain foreign control. By eliminating these divisions, Traoré's initiative empowers Africans to reclaim agency over their political, economic, and cultural futures. Unified regions will have the population size, resource base, and collective leverage to negotiate with global powers from positions of strength rather than dependency. For older audiences in the United States, the significance is multifold. This is not merely a story about Africa. It is a profound historical moment reminiscent of transformative political movements in the 20th century, a rare example of a continent-wide effort to correct historical injustices through deliberate, organized, and pragmatic strategy. The scope, ambition, and secrecy of this initiative make it one of the most consequential political developments of our era, with potential ramifications for international relations, global economics, and the future of governance in the developing world. And while the world watches, the story continues to unfold. Over the next 18 months, the African Union and its member states will begin implementing border elimination on a continental scale. The potential for economic growth, cultural revival, and political unity is unprecedented. Families will reunite, trade will expand, and Africa may finally realize the potential envisioned by its leaders at independence decades ago, a potential that was long deferred by colonial manipulation and external interference. This is the opening chapter of a revolution that promises to be studied for generations. What you are witnessing is history in motion, a bold experiment in governance, diplomacy, and social transformation that could redefine the political landscape not only of Africa, but of the entire world. As we continue, we will explore the mechanisms, the human stories, and the strategic brilliance that have propelled Ibrahim Traoré and his supporters to this remarkable milestone. With the African Union's historic endorsement secured, the next phase of Ibrahim Traoré's vision has begun, the systematic implementation of the Continental Border Elimination Initiative. This initiative is not a symbolic gesture. It is a meticulously designed blueprint for transforming Africa's political, social, and economic landscapes. At the heart of the program lies a recognition that artificial colonial boundaries have long inhibited trade, disrupted social cohesion, and curtailed the potential of millions of Africans. Traoré's plan seeks to restore the continent's natural unity, reuniting ethnic groups, reviving cultural heritage, and fostering economic interdependence in ways never attempted before. The initiative is structured around 15 comprehensive components, each addressing a critical aspect of continental transformation. Among these, the reunification of divided ethnic groups is paramount. Communities like the Yoruba, split between Nigeria and Benin, the Maasai between Kenya and Tanzania, and the Fani across multiple West African nations are being reconnected. Beyond symbolism, this reunification carries measurable benefits. Trade flows are being reestablished along traditional routes, agricultural coordination is improving yields, and cultural practices long suppressed by colonial borders are being restored. Another cornerstone is the redrawing of political boundaries based on natural geography. Mountain ranges, river basins, and desert edges replace arbitrary colonial lines, creating regions that are environmentally coherent and economically viable. This geographic realignment supports infrastructure development, resource management, and environmental protection on a scale previously impossible. Coordinated education, healthcare, and legal systems further unify populations, ensuring that African societies operate according to their own values and priorities rather than externally imposed frameworks. The economic implications of border elimination are staggering. Artificial colonial divisions have historically reduced intra-African trade by over 60%, forcing related communities to transact through distant administrative centers and external ports. With these barriers removed, entire regions are now emerging as cohesive economic zones. Yoruba communities can trade seamlessly across Nigeria and Benin. Swahili-speaking regions in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda are integrating agricultural and industrial production. Pastoralist communities once restricted by political boundaries can now access traditional grazing routes and water sources, improving productivity and reducing conflicts. In cities like Bamako, Niamey, and Ouagadougou, local markets are experiencing unprecedented activity. Trade volumes have surged, unemployment is declining, and small businesses are thriving as regional integration unlocks demand and supply chains previously constrained by national borders. Industrial hubs are being planned along resource corridors that now connect formerly separated territories, enabling local processing of minerals, agricultural produce, and manufactured goods. Tourism is also poised for a renaissance. Unified cultural and ecological sites allow visitors to traverse expansive regions without the bureaucratic obstacles imposed by colonial-era boundaries. Socially, the initiative has sparked an extraordinary resurgence of cultural identity. Traditional festivals, long disrupted by political fragmentation, are returning. Students can now pursue education in ancestral regions, reconnecting with local languages, histories, and traditions. Families separated for generations are being reunited, and communities are rediscovering shared customs, rituals, and governance practices. This cultural revival strengthens social cohesion and fosters a sense of continental identity, particularly among younger generations who now see tangible benefits in supporting African unity. Central to the success of this initiative is the engagement of African youth and diaspora communities. Across the continent, university students, young professionals, and civic organizations have embraced reunification as a vehicle for economic prosperity and social progress. Exchange programs are flourishing, connecting students across national lines. Business networks are emerging, spanning former colonial borders to facilitate trade, investment, and innovation. Social media campaigns with hashtags like #AfricaUnited and #BorderElimination have generated millions of interactions, amplifying awareness and enthusiasm for the movement. Diaspora communities are playing a pivotal role as well. African professionals in Silicon Valley, European tech hubs and global innovation centers are leveraging their expertise to support infrastructure, education, and technology projects across reunified regions. Some are relocating permanently to contribute directly, while others are forming consulting networks, partnerships, and investment initiatives designed to accelerate the continent's transformation. These transnational connections strengthen Africa's global presence, bringing expertise, capital, and innovation that were previously constrained by fragmented governance structures. Traditional rulers and religious leaders have also endorsed the movement. Over 300 chiefs and elders have pledged to support reunification ceremonies and participate in governance processes within newly aligned territories. Religious leaders see border elimination as an opportunity to reconnect faith communities divided by colonial maps, whether Muslim, Christian, or practitioners of indigenous African religions. By harmonizing political, cultural, and spiritual authority, the initiative seeks to create regions that are cohesive, stable, and capable of managing complex transitions. These leaders also provide a crucial mechanism for conflict prevention. By leveraging traditional authority and community trust, potential disputes arising from political or territorial realignment can be resolved peacefully. This combination of modern governance frameworks with traditional systems ensures that reunification is both orderly and culturally legitimate, reducing the risk of unrest that might otherwise accompany such sweeping changes. The initiative has not gone unnoticed internationally. Western governments, historically reliant on Africa's fragmentation for economic and political leverage, have responded with concern. France, in particular, has convened emergency sessions to evaluate potential sanctions or interventions. The United Kingdom and the United States have expressed apprehension over regional stability, diplomatic relations, and the potential loss of influence. European Union bodies are actively strategizing engagement programs, offering incentives for countries to maintain existing borders, reflecting a long-standing pattern of external powers attempting to preserve Africa's division. Yet the very intensity of Western scrutiny underscores the transformative potential of Traoré's initiative. Unified African regions, economically integrated, culturally cohesive, and politically empowered, represent a fundamental shift in the balance of power. Populations that were once fragmented and vulnerable can now negotiate from positions of strength. Resource-rich regions will have the scale to control their own development agendas, demand fair trade terms, and participate meaningfully in global governance. Moreover, global partnerships are emerging outside Western influence. China's Belt and Road Initiative offers infrastructure development opportunities that connect reunified African regions directly to Asian markets. Russian investment in resource processing can enable local value addition. Middle Eastern states are seeking cultural, economic, and strategic ties with African regions, leveraging shared heritage and Islamic connections. These collaborations illustrate a diversifying global landscape where Africa can assert autonomy and chart a path aligned with continental priorities rather than external interests. As African leaders, youth, and diaspora communities continue to advance reunification, the success of Ibrahim Traoré's initiative hinges on maintaining unity amid external pressures. Early signs are promising. Economic growth in pilot regions continues, cultural revitalization progresses, and public support appears to be deepening. Upcoming conferences such as the February 2025 Continental Unity Gathering in Ouagadougou are expected to formalize legal frameworks, governance structures, and implementation timelines, ensuring the initiative transitions from vision to enduring reality. The February 2025 Continental Unity Conference in Ouagadougou represents the next critical step in Africa's transformative journey. This unprecedented gathering will bring together more than 15,000 delegates, including government officials, traditional rulers, youth leaders, civil society representatives, and members of the diaspora. The scale alone makes it the largest political assembly in African history. But beyond numbers, the conference is designed to ensure that every perspective, every community, and every cultural consideration is reflected in the final blueprint for reunification. At the heart of the conference agenda is the development of detailed implementation plans. These include the gradual removal of colonial borders, management of transitional governance zones, allocation of resources, and establishment of conflict resolution mechanisms. Recognizing the complexity of the undertaking, planners are emphasizing gradual integration rather than abrupt restructuring. Transition zones where multiple ethnic or cultural groups coexist will serve as models for careful coexistence, providing lessons that can later be replicated across the continent. Additionally, the conference will address infrastructure integration, an essential component for the success of reunification. Road networks, rail lines, ports, and telecommunications systems that were historically designed to serve colonial extraction goals are being reimagined to facilitate intra-African trade, cultural exchange, and connectivity. By aligning development with natural economic and geographic realities, Africa is positioning itself for a long-term boom, one that is measured not in foreign investment alone but in real benefits to local communities. Diaspora involvement continues to expand rapidly. Africans abroad are not only observing from afar, they are active participants in shaping the new political landscape. Educational partnerships are being established to transfer knowledge in agriculture, technology, healthcare, and governance. African professionals in Europe, North America, and Asia are mobilizing their expertise to help implement systems that will sustain reunification and development. These contributions are particularly significant because they create direct links between African innovation and global expertise, bypassing historically exploitative intermediaries. The diaspora also plays a strategic role in amplifying Africa's voice internationally. Social media campaigns, investment initiatives, and policy advocacy in foreign capitals are helping to counter misinformation and foreign pressure. By demonstrating the tangible benefits of reunification, economic growth, cultural revival, and political stability, diaspora engagement is building a persuasive case that African unity is not only feasible, but essential. The elimination of colonial borders is not merely a political act. It is a catalyst for unprecedented economic, cultural, and human development. Consider the scope. Agricultural regions can now plan collectively, coordinating production according to natural cycles rather than arbitrary national boundaries. Pastoralists regain access to traditional migration routes, improving livestock health and reducing resource conflicts. Industrial zones can now be strategically located to maximize efficiency, connecting resource extraction sites directly to processing facilities and markets. Tourism benefits multiply as unified regions offer richer, more accessible cultural and ecological experiences, free from bureaucratic obstacles imposed by past colonial borders. Cultural revival is equally transformative. Traditional ceremonies, languages, and customs long suppressed by arbitrary divisions are experiencing a renaissance. Families separated for generations are reunited. Education systems are being redesigned to teach African history from African perspectives, ensuring that young people understand their heritage and their role in shaping the continent's future. For the first time in decades, African communities have the opportunity to reclaim cultural and political agency, aligning governance with local knowledge and traditions. Human potential, once constrained by colonial divisions, is finally being unlocked. Young Africans now have access to a broader range of educational, economic, and professional opportunities. Entrepreneurs can develop regional markets without interference, students can attend universities in their ancestral regions, and communities can leverage local expertise for sustainable development. The ripple effects are extraordinary: enhanced social cohesion, higher productivity, and the creation of resilient, self-reliant societies. For viewers in the United States and around the world, Understanding the significance of this transformation is crucial. What is unfolding is more than a policy shift. It is the completion of Africa's independence, a historical rectification that the 1960s political movements left unfinished. Colonial borders may have been removed on paper decades ago, but their legacy of division, exploitation, and social disruption persisted. Now, for the first time in over a century, a continent is actively reclaiming its unity. By subscribing to this channel, you gain an exclusive front-row seat to the African reunification revolution. Here you will witness the unfolding of history through detailed analyses, insider reports, and on-the-ground coverage. You will follow how Ibrahim Traoré's vision transforms governance, revives culture, reconnects families, and reshapes economic landscapes. This is a moment of profound global significance, and those who observe, understand, and engage today will have unique insight into the birth of a unified Africa. We encourage you to share this information widely, especially with friends, family, and colleagues interested in global politics, history, and economic development. Discuss in the comments which regions or colonial boundaries you believe should be prioritized for elimination, and reflect on whether African reunification can withstand the pressures of powerful external actors seeking to preserve the status quo. Remember, this is more than a story. It is a living, unfolding historical event. Africa's borders are not static. They're being redefined by the people who live there. The reunification revolution is tangible, measurable, and already impacting millions. Families are reuniting, communities are thriving, economies are growing, cultural practices are being restored, and the continent's position on the global stage is being fundamentally strengthened.